Baby Nikita was a bright, 4-year-old little girl celebrated as a fighter and dancer whose short life united her Eldorado Park community in grief. Today, she is remembered in a haunting memorial portrait, her cherubic face overlaid with angelic wings, an image that has become a symbol of lost childhood innocence. Nikita should have been dancing and playing, but instead, her life was cut brutally short, and her story has ignited a national outcry over child abuse. She had to lose her life for the lives of other young children to be saved, one local councillor said tearfully at her funeral. In the wake of this horror, Nikita's name, Baby Nikita, as reported in the media, has become synonymous with both profound grief and a demand for justice. On the evening of August 6, 2025, Eldorado Park neighbors heard terrifying noises, a young child crying out in pain. Someone called the police, members of the Family Violence, Child Protection and Sexual Offences Unit arrived at the respondent's home and were shown to a locked shack in the backyard. When officers forced the door open, they found Nikita and her toddler brother inside. The little girl lay barely conscious, covered in bruises and injuries. Police discovered the young girl with severe head injuries, bruises, and a swollen eye. The images shocked even hardened officers. A 4-year-old child, battered and broken. Paramedics immediately rushed Nikita to Chris Hani Baragwanath Hospital. Tragically, doctors could not save her. After 2 days on life support, the tiny girl succumbed to her injuries on August 8, 2025. The death certificate would list the cause as blunt force trauma to the head and internal injuries. In that moment, a local community's worst fears were confirmed. Baby Nikita had been murdered in a completely preventable way. Police learned that Nikita's father, age 32, lived at the shack with his partner Nikita's mother, age 39, and her 2 children. When officers broke in, they found Nikita's father standing nearby. He was immediately detained. Authorities later reported that he could not explain Nikita's injuries. According to one news account, the man was arrested after failing to explain what had happened to the child. Investigators began to piece together the horror. Neighbors had long heard Nikita and her brother crying, but no one had intervened until that frantic night. Forensic examination of Nikita's body and hospital records revealed a litany of wounds, broken bones, internal bleeding, and multiple lacerations. These injuries were consistent with repeated, severe beatings, and the medical team also discovered clear signs of sexual assault. As one report noted, Nikita had been raped and beaten, allegedly by her father. Nikita's mother was also arrested and later charged for her role. The first charge against her was failure to protect a child. She was accused of knowing about the abuse and doing nothing and defeating the ends of justice for allegedly hiding evidence or lying to police. In South African law, such charges recognize that bystanders, even parents, can be legally culpable if they allow abuse to continue. In the hours and days after the discovery, police, social workers, and child protection agencies descended on the scene. Grieving neighbors held impromptu candlelight vigils in the neighborhood. Eldorado Park, a township with a tight-knit community, was in shock. Mothers wept openly that something so horrible could happen to one of their own children. Within days, formal charges were laid. The father, 32, appeared in the Protea Magistrates Court on August 8, 2025. Initially, he faced attempted murder charges, as investigators still believed the little girl might survive. But once Nikita's death was confirmed, the state upgraded the charges. By mid-August, the father was formally charged with murder, rape, and multiple counts of assault with intent to do grievous bodily harm (GBH), among other counts. One report listed no fewer than 6 charges for him: murder, rape, compelled rape, assault with intent to cause GBH, child abuse, and defeating the ends of justice. The mother, 39, was charged differently. Initially, she was not accused of directly abusing Nikita but of failing to report a sexual offense against a child. In other words, prosecutors allege she knew Nikita was being harmed and either covered it up or did nothing to stop it. By 18 August, however, new evidence or a change in prosecutorial strategy led authorities to charge the mother with murder as well under the doctrine of common purpose. This means the state believes she somehow shared criminal intent with the father, perhaps by passively allowing the abuse. At one point, news bulletins bluntly stated, "Her parents are charged with her murder." In court documents, the mother's charges include at least murder and failing to protect, and she still faces the potential of long prison time for each count. On August 8, 2025, both parents were brought before the Protea Magistrates Court in Soweto. Judge M.J. Motala, the on-duty magistrate that day, heard the prosecution outline the harrowing facts. The father was led in chains and charged with attempted murder, pending the official confirmation of Nikita's death. The mother was charged with failing to protect the child. Their first appearance was brief, mainly to inform them of the charges and remand them in custody. No bail application was granted at that initial stage. A week later, the case returned to court on 18 August, a Monday, this time for a formal bail hearing. By then, the prosecution had updated the charge sheets. The father's case sheet now listed murder and rape, and the mother's included murder. Both accused had legal representation present and were expected to argue for release. However, when the hearing began, something remarkable happened. Both parents withdrew their bail applications and asked that they remain in custody. Reporters wrote that the couple appeared at the Protea Magistrates Court on Monday, where they abandoned their bail application. In effect, they chose not to fight for freedom in hopes of leniency. In South Africa's climate of vigilante anger toward child abusers, it is likely their lawyers advised them that bail would be hopeless. The magistrate had no choice but to remand them again. The state then successfully postponed the case for further investigations. As one media report noted, the matter was postponed to October 9th. For the next appearance. In practice, this means baby Nikita's parents will stay in jail for at least 2 more months awaiting trial. During the bail hearing, the prosecutor indicated they intend to oppose any future bail application, calling the crimes heinous and arguing that the accused pose an ongoing threat to children in the community. Even elected officials took notice. The Gauteng Provincial Legislature's Community Safety Committee released a statement on 18 August applauding the decision to stay in custody. It noted the two were facing charges of murder, rape, and child abuse of a 4-year-old child and urged the courts to build a watertight case and impose the harshest possible sentences if they are convicted. In short, government leaders cast the case as an urgent test of South Africa's commitment to protecting its most vulnerable. Every milestone in this case has been marked by public emotion. Within days of Nikita's death, Eldorado Park erupted in grief and anger. A memorial service held at Don Mateman Hall drew hundreds of residents. Local churches, activists, and ordinary citizens gathered, many in tears, many carrying placards demanding justice for baby Nikita. To pay tribute, at one service, Charlene Abels of the Stand for Her Foundation told mourners, "You did not deserve to leave in such a tragic manner. However, your death has made you a hero who has united this community." She urged everyone present to vow that the abuse of children will never happen again. Ward Councillor Juwaria Caldini, also speaking, held back tears as she called Nikita a beautiful angel whose life was taken and future stripped from her. Caldini mourned that Nikita's family had endured tragic circumstances and thanked them for allowing the community to gather and celebrate her memory. Her words that Nikita's life must not have been lost in vain echoed throughout the township. Political and community leaders attended the funeral. Akshansa leader Herman Mashaba, the City of Johannesburg Speaker Margaret Arnolds, EFF Provincial Chair Nukuleko Dunga, and Bishop Dalton Adams were all present. Bishop Adams took the microphone to address not just the tragedy of this case, but the broader stigma it inflamed. He warned that colored women in South Africa are often unfairly stigmatized, saying, "We condemn these acts of violence perpetrated by parents, as these tragedies do not exist in a vacuum. These stories paint colored women as unfit for motherhood. We must condemn and dispel this narrative." His pointed speech blamed no particular political group, but urged society to grapple with gender-based violence without resorting to racism or blame. After the bail hearing on 18 August, community leaders again spoke out. Keith Chiefs M. Duarte, a respected activist in Eldorado Park, noted grimly that given the public outrage, the parents made the right decision by abandoning their bail application. Out here in Eldorado Park, they would not have been received very well. Other residents who came to the courthouse refused to give names, but many expressed a simple sentiment: they would feel safer knowing the accused remains behind bars. In short, Nikita's death has become a rallying point. Memorial gatherings lit up social media feeds, and local NGOs used the case to amplify calls for stronger child protection. The hashtag Justice for Nikita trended on South African Twitter that week, with many users lamenting that yet another child had been failed by the adults around her. The local newspaper, The Star, captured the mood. The recent death of a 4-year-old baby Nikita has brought the Eldorado Park community together. It ran as a headline, "Everyone agrees. Nikita's parents will have to answer for what happened, and her community will be watching closely. Baby Nikita's case is horrifying on its own, but it also highlights broader patterns in South Africa. Experts and officials note that violence against children and women remains alarmingly high nationwide, a recent report by Statistics South Africa calls child abuse a scourge and reveals that 26,000 cases of child abuse and neglect were reported in the 2024-25 financial year. Those figures correspond with a grim survey finding about 1 in 3 South African girls and 1 in 5 boys will suffer some form of violence before their 18th birthday. In other words, baby Nikita's fate, sadly, is not an isolated anomaly in these statistics. It is part of an ongoing epidemic, broader gender-based violence. GBV issues also loom over the case. Human Rights Watch and other groups have repeatedly warned that South Africa has shocking levels of violence against women and girls. The country is estimated to have one of the world's highest rape rates and a femicide rate about 5 times the global average. Even official police crime reports show thousands of rapes and other GBV incidents every quarter. In South Africa's mixed communities, the intersection of poverty, inadequate policing, and cultural factors means that children of all backgrounds are tragically at risk. Eldorado Park activists often note that colored communities face stereotypes and resource gaps, but ultimately violence knows no racial boundary here. The public outcry over baby Nikita's death has spurred calls to stop GBV. A campaign image like this one underscores the urgency felt by advocates. Non-profits and citizens have repeatedly used that slogan, "Stop Gender-Based Violence," to frame Nikita's story as part of a national crisis. Many commentators point out that each horrific case tends to spark fleeting outrage, but sustained action is hard to maintain. In this light, community leaders argue that Nikita's memory should become a catalyst for better education on child rights, stronger enforcement of existing laws, and the courage for neighbors to report abuse when they see it. As of mid-August 2025, baby Nikita's case was still moving slowly through the courts. Both parents remained detained in custody. There has been no trial yet, only pre-trial hearings and a formal bail process. All legal filings confirm the serious charges described above. The father's criminal docket lists murder, multiple sexual assault counts, and grievous bodily harm. The mother's file lists murder and failure to report a crime. Neither parent has been granted bail or any form of release. In fact, they withdrew their own bail request, meaning the court did not even have to formally deny bail. The next scheduled court date, set on 18 August, is October 9, 2025. At that hearing, the defense and prosecution will likely begin laying the groundwork for the trial. Prosecutors have signaled they will oppose any future bail. Gauteng officials were explicit that individuals accused of Nikita's crimes pose a grave threat to society and should remain in custody. The legislature's safety committee has also urged a watertight case and the harshest possible penalties if there are convictions. In the media, lawyers for the accused have declined to comment on specifics, as is typical, citing the ongoing investigation. The Public Prosecutor's Office (NPA) has likewise been tight-lipped beyond confirming charges and dates. But local press reports confirm that both police and child protection services continue to assist the court by collecting evidence. Forensic analysis of Nikita's injuries, witness statements from neighbors, and expert testimony on the child's injuries will all be assembled before the case is finalized, because Nikita's death involved clear evidence of sexual assault. The investigation included securing DNA evidence and medical records. All signs point to a full, vigorous prosecution. Across South Africa, the story has resonated in Parliament and the media. Baby Nikita is cited as a chilling example whenever child abuse is discussed. On social media, the latest updates from August show activists renewing demands for justice, often tagging both the police and child welfare agencies to ensure accountability. One campaigner recently urged, "This cannot end until Nikita's killers are behind bars for life." It remains to be seen when the actual trial will occur. But for now, the community's vigil is not over. Parents in Eldorado Park still take their children's hands a little tighter. Neighbors watch out a little more, and every candle lit in baby Nikita's memory reminds authorities that the public is watching.